Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario Nuri and Kirill Lazarov from Labs Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Labs Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Labs Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at labsproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
And now, let's begin the show.
Okay, hi everyone. Today we have Margaux from Digital Moxie Studio. So Margaux, before we kick off, we'll just get a little bit of a background from you, and then I guess we'll dive into some specific topics.
Okay, I'm Margaux, and I have Digital Moxie Studio in Omaha, Nebraska. We're a film and video production company, and I think I'm the only woman-owned video production company in the city.
That's incredible. We've actually haven't had that many female production company owners come on. I think I can count on one hand, right, Kirill? Like what? I think 3 or 4. So far.
I think including you, it's 3 or 4. It's not the most common. It's not very common in the industry to have someone who's female that owns a production company. What has that been kind of like for you in terms of your journey?
Well, it's definitely a male-dominated industry, and I know there's some women that do wedding video production, and I know that there's a couple other husband-wife teams. So for me, it's been pretty fine. Though really, the only time that working in this industry, there's a lot of marketing people, and they're women, or tend to be women. And then we work a lot with nonprofits. They tend to be more women than men. So I just assumed that women would enjoy working with women. And so the only time really that I had an obvious that somebody had a little bit of a different thing that I was a woman was when we did a little gig with Bill Murray, and it was me and like 5 men that were crew, and we had like a little huddle and we're talking, and he just completely overlooked me. It was like there's no way that I was in charge of these guys. It was kind of funny, but he's from the old school mentality of how things and stuff, but it was funny. So but in general, it's been really good. I had one guy from Arkansas call me up and say, hey, we're doing some construction and we want a time-lapse video. Can you interested in helping us? And I said, sure. And then after we got to know him and we're chatting some more, and probably like you guys do, I'm like, how did you find us? And he said, Google. And I saw that it was a woman-owned company, and I knew if I hired a woman, it would be done right. And so I was like, can I quote you on that one? He goes, for sure. So far, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, maybe the technical part of it, the cameras, most people get into it from the cameras and then branch on from there. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. It was interesting you mentioned how like a lot of women-owned production companies tend to be usually kind of more in the wedding scene. I think it might just come down to like what type of
But on the
content
photo
that
side,
people...
Carol, not even on the video, because
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen in 10 years I've seen maybe 2 female videographers in the wedding space. I know they're out there, but I've only seen 2 of them.
We have a lot more
Yeah.
in Omaha. Yeah, there's a bunch of women doing wedding video in Omaha. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, we're talking from like the Toronto perspective because that's where we're based out of. So it's always interesting to kind of hear like what the different industries are, like what kind of companies are dominating in different parts of the U.S. And today we're kind of diving a little more into Omaha, of course.
Yeah, it really is. Like, the different processes and what gear is really popular with the people around you and stuff like that. It's kind of cool to see.
How did you get into like the video production space?
So I'm from Orlando. I grew up in Florida, and after college, I went back to Orlando, and I was an actor. That's what I did as a profession. I worked at Universal Studios as an actor in one of their live shows. I did industrials. I did training stuff. I was on a few Nickelodeon episodes. America's Most Wanted is my mom's favorite, that I was America's Most Wanted. So I got to be in my 30s, and I realized I was never going to run away to California or New York to be an actor. I just wasn't passionate enough. Actually, I wasn't that good of an actor to make it there. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do next? And I had a friend that worked at a TV station in Orlando, and he said, we are looking for a living segments reporter. Do you want an introduction? And I'm like, sure, I'll just act like a reporter, right? And so ended up getting the job, and they hired me to do the living segment reporting, and they said, we need you to produce too. So they gave me a certain amount of a production that I was in charge of. So then at that point, I had to figure out who the talent was going to be, what the music was going to be, what's the basis of the story. And I'm like, oh, you have so much more input and control, and I love telling a good story. And it was like, on that side of it, it was totally different than just being the talent, and I loved it more. So after that, after I got a taste of being on the other side of the camera, I never went back.
So you were still in Orlando at the time when you were doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I moved here to Omaha quite a bit ago. I came for love, which of course is now just an ex, because that's how life goes. And then found myself needing a job, and kind of put some fillers out. And a friend owned a big international medical supply company, and they said, we've been talking about years about doing video for our products and stuff. Why don't you come start a video department? And it ended up being a department of one, me, and then I did that for about 3 years and got my legs back under me, learned all the new technology and everything, and then made every video we could possibly think of for the company. And then it was time to move on. I worked for another small company, and then ended up starting Digital Moxie Studio.
What made you go from working within different company departments, like of being an employee? What was the decision? What was the reason why you decided to start your own shop, basically?
Well, I had worked with another small video production company, much like Digital Moxie Studio is, and things were sailing along pretty good. I was pretty much running everything. I just wasn't doing sales, but we were doing all the production, all the shoots, dealing with clients, editing, all that kind of stuff. And then that opportunity just kind of came to an end, and I found myself needing a job. And I'm like, oh, well, I love doing this. I wake up in the morning and I'm excited. So I really would like to continue doing this. So I sat down to I'm pretty connected, I feel like, in Omaha, and I think it's much easier to get a warm introduction to somebody than to just try and send your resume in cold. So I sat down and I started researching, okay, who do I know that does good video, who has a bad reputation, and started trying to take notes and stuff. And everywhere I looked, it was men. And I was like, I can't believe there are no women doing this. And then I thought about it and mulled it over and decided that Omaha would support a women-owned video production company, so I started Digital Moxie Studio. I knew I made the right decision because the next morning I woke up and felt more alive than I had felt in years, and was determined and ready to go.
So
Nice.
When you started it, you obviously had to you knew all the like the management, the producing, and technical creative stuff. But with regards to sales, how did you find yourself tackling that aspect of running a business?
I was scared of sales because in my mind, salespeople are salespeople, and it turns out that when I talk to somebody about video production, it's like when my dad talks to people about the Red Sox. It's just passion. It seems like a natural flowing conversation, and it didn't feel like sales at all. So I was pretty confident that what I was doing was good stuff and that I'm good with people. But I'm like, well, nobody's going to come knock on your door while you're sitting on the couch, Margaux, and ask you to do video. You're going to have to put yourself out there. So I just went to any networking opportunity I could find, ask for introductions from some other clients that I had worked with. I didn't want to try to steal any clients, but I asked for other introductions and, stuff like that, and just slowly built it up. So.
It seems like you're very active and it seems like you're a very extroverted person to be able to do that, because I find that, like myself included, and I think a lot of other production company owners face the same thing. It's kind of hard to sell your services, right? Or it's like you kind of go how do I approach someone that is not looking for video content and just try to sell them on it, right? So.
Well, that's the thing, Dario. I don't look for people that aren't looking for video content. I look for people that want video and just convince them I'm the one to do it. So, which has changed. We just celebrated our 8-year anniversary, and 8 years ago, people were like, "Do I need video?" Now everybody wants video. So now it's just about pick me kind of thing.
And to Dario's point, you have that infectious energy as you're kind of talking about it. That when you're starting to talk to new leads or just people who you don't even realize might actually need video, they might be like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about and they seem fun, let's work with them. And I think that's something that is almost a lost art in this industry. It's a lot of seclusion, with everyone in their own bubbles, and it's hard to kind of break out of that sometimes. And it's just trying to be actively more engaging with other people. That's one thing that's definitely missing in this industry.
You think so? Because I love telling a good story. I'm passionate about it. I grew up in an Italian family, and good stories go a long way, and family life. But really, my favorite part of my job is the people we get to meet, the people we get, during our adventures, the things we get to learn. I've learned so many things from about how the law works to how robotic milking works with the cows and stuff. So I love getting to meet the people and learning new stuff. So
that's definitely the best part of our job. Sorry, Carol, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that definitely is one great part about our job is seeing all these different industries and behind the scenes of how things work. How industry works even sometimes. I'm actually curious. What is one of the most what is something that comes to mind that's a memorable thing that you've learned while doing this job, in terms of industry or people that you've worked with?
Well, I have to go back to the robotic milking of the cows. So I had no idea, and it's just so funny because we were up in Wisconsin and doing this story, and these cows have a really good life. They have these really nice buildings where they just kind of hang out and talk to their friends, and then when they feel full, they're ready to be milked, they go up to this machine. They have a electronic collar that says who this cow is. They go in, and the machine has learned about their bodies and how to shape the things to them, and how much normally they produce, and they hang out and get milked, and then they get a little treat and they go on, and they're just super happy. It's so funny because I had no idea that that's kind of how this worked. And they had one cow that liked doing it so much she just kept going through.
Sounds like a spa for cows, the way you're describing it.
It really is. And then there's another one that does it's not quite as spa-like as that one is, but they go on a carousel. Did you know that there's... No. So cows get loaded onto a carousel, and they spin around, and then another one goes in, another one goes in, and they spin around till they're done milking, and then the gate opens up and they go out the other way. It's really kind of fascinating.
Wow.
I
Was
never
this
knew
like
that.
a-
I always thought it was like, I guess PETA infected like my view on that because they always show that, oh, they're in hell and everything. I didn't know it was like a spa-like treatment
I
for
mean,
them.
that's what I mean. It sounds like such a contrast. Like, is it something that's like more common that you found doing this story? Did they let you know that it's more common that they do it like that, or is it kind of like something that they're trying to do against the system?
I think that the mentality has shifted, and they pretty much have figured out happy cows make more better milk, and the people
Who would have
the
thought?
yeah, and the cheesemakers
Right?
and
Who would have
everybody,
thought?
the cheesemakers and all the people in the industry that want the milk want the more better milk. So but I have found like that's what's so cool is what I was talking about the people is when you get to know the farmers and you're telling the stories is that they're really great people and getting to know them. And because I kind of thought, like you said, like, oh, cows were just manipulating them and using them and, throw them out to pasture and stuff like that. But what I learned was the farmers really love their cows, and the happy cat, they really do their best to keep the cows happy and healthy.
We had an interesting project last year for this garage door company, and I didn't know like before doing that project, but it's like there's only 2 companies that really do garage doors, and the one we were doing the work for is like over 100 years old. I was like, how they had garage doors 100 years ago? Like what?
Right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
funny. They probably looked a little different, but
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just
It was
like,
for the cows, right? You keep the cows.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the garage door.
they did the garage doors for the farmers, Yeah, seeing like how like certain industries like you would think that there would be so many different companies working in certain areas, and then you find out like Dario mentions like, oh, there's really only 2 big players, and then that's it. Otherwise, no one else can jump into it. It's like, okay, that's a new perspective. Or like in 2022, we mentioned before, like it was a year where we were doing a lot of manufacturing companies, like, and I think that was actually the year where we were doing that. And it's like, oh, there's like a huge cable company that works in Canada that does like the cabling for like NASA, and we were like, oh, right here, just in Mississauga, they do this.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to think about sometimes.
we do a fair amount of our work is with nonprofits, and it's always so great to go in and work with the nonprofits and tell their story because gosh, there's good people doing good stuff, and I like to be reminded of that there's good people doing good stuff.
Yeah.
And so I love going in and telling those stories, and people tell us about how the organization helped them, made their life different and stuff. It's really, really important to me as well. So
I'm noticing that in the states we've been reaching out to, like I guess in like the Midwest or whatnot, so like Nebraska, I'm just looking at my list over there, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, there's a lot of nonprofit like work.
yeah, well, we have Warren Buffett, and he has just set the tone that Omaha is an incredibly philanthropic community. I mean, our wealthy people support our community, so it's good for us.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because
here it's a bit more diversified, I found, compared to like those areas. But
What do you mean?
Well, I guess I mean like we're in Toronto, so it's like there's every type of industry you can imagine here. So we don't like I haven't noticed that it's particularly leaning on like one or the other. It's just
Okay.
like whatever in the type of industry you want, you can find here. I guess we're a little bit blessed in that regard.
Yeah, I mean,
when you
and
think about
also
it.
nonprofits are not traditionally like a huge dominant kind of clientele for people in the industry. Like if any production company does work with a nonprofit, it's usually like a few one-offs every now and then, because we find that budgets are very restricted for nonprofits here. Like I'm sure they are in the US as well, but if there is a lot more of a philanthropic push there's probably more resources to kind of like push towards working with nonprofits. So that's why we were just a little curious. Like you mentioned, like a lot of your work is with nonprofits. Like how do you go about like working with nonprofits versus like say a corporate client? Like what's that relationship like?
Well, I mean, in some ways it's more fulfilling. Don't tell my corporate clients I said that. But I mean, we've done TV commercials for a local law firm for a few years. I mean, and I mean, it's different. I mean, it's got a different vibe, you know. But the nonprofits is just, I don't know. It's really fulfilling. Oh, and, I mean, and there's some serious budgets. We worked with, when we did, I mentioned the Bill Murray one a few years ago. I mean, that was for Teammates Mentoring, and they raised over $1 million at that event. So
It's a lot of
like
money.
you said, there's a lot of money, supported here and stuff. So yeah.
Let's jump back a bit into when you started your company. What would you say were like the biggest hurdles you faced early on?
Well, it's funny because in some ways things change, in some ways they don't, right? So the nature of our industry is project driven. So somebody has a project, you work on it and then it's done, right? And then you may not see them again for a couple of years, or until they need some other kind of video. So the hardest part is what's next. You can't really plan. You don't know, like, this month is packed and looking great, but 2 months from now, what's going to happen, So that was the hardest part, is just getting clients and kind of keeping the momentum moving. And then again, it's still kind of the same thing. It felt really good this year. We started 2025 and we had things booked out. I was like, yes, this is exciting. I had a friend that was like, she worked for the IRS, and she was like, I can't believe you don't know how much money you're going to make next month. I mean, how do you live like that? And I was like, it's just the nature of the business. You just kind of have to keep doing it and keep plugging and trust that things are going to come. And you don't know exactly how much you're going to make, but it as long as you make enough to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people like get puzzled when they hear that about us, because for us it's almost like it's in the back of our minds, I guess, but we don't really think about it. But for someone else, like, they wouldn't be able to live like that. And even us, sometimes I go like, I don't know what's going to come in this month, but something always just comes in last minute that does save your butt. Right?
Isn't it funny how it does it? Not you just kind of have to trust. You kind of like, evidently we're the kind of people that don't have to dwell on things like that. Because if you did dwell on it, it'd probably make you nervous and freak you out. Yeah, you can't, but you just can't think about it. So.
And when you're early on in the industry, like at least for us, the fact that we weren't making a lot in the beginning was due to our, young single naivety as well. It's like, oh, we didn't really realize how little we were making back in the day. And then finally, when it got to the point where we were able to live off of like what we were bringing in, it's like, oh, wow, it is tricky when it gets from month to month. But then, like you said, sometimes there are years where you do really well, and then you mention that to people and they think, oh my God, that's a lot. It's like, no, it's not. A lot of that goes to the expenses, the crews and everything. At the end of the day, there's only so much that's left over, right? So it's like, that's why you have to really push as much as you can, right? Like, just because you make 10K in 1 month does not mean that's 10K pure profit for your business, right? It's
the
like
gross and the net. The gross and the net.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
For us, the biggest change came from when we started paying ourselves consistently, like month to month. That's when we noticed like the biggest change in terms of like where the company was going and how much we needed to bring in. Because before we weren't really factoring that in to like the
free labor. You guys are free labor, right?
Yeah, we were free labor, right?
Just withdrawing whenever there was a healthy balance in the bank account, It was not sustainable for long term.
I think in a way, though, I think that's probably one of the things that attracts people to this business, is because the barrier to entry in this business now is so different than it used to be. Really anybody could get started with a decent DSLR, right? So and a computer, and you could get started. Of course, all of us have progressed past that, but so I think that's kind of exciting, is that you can do it and then just get better and better equipment and better product and better stuff as you go. So yeah, if you think about all the stuff that you guys have now and all the equipment and all the stuff you have invested. If you had to do that at the beginning, could you have done it?
No.
Like,
we were lucky though. We started at a time where the barriers to entry, like with regards to equipment, were low. Because we've heard stories of people that started 20 plus years ago, and they talked about how they had to get a loan to just get an editing system. right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
big
guess
add-ins and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so the difference went from barriers to entry being equipment costs to now barriers to entry just being getting yourself in front of clients, right?
Yeah.
That's the transition in the industry.
Yeah, these kind of jobs didn't exist when I was in college.
No.
It was, more like an advertising agency, the TV stations, and how much were those cameras? I mean, like there might have been 3 in town, and you had to, figure out how to use them or rent them or whatever. Yeah, so it's completely changed, which is.
I was talking with this one young kid who he's like 18, 19 years old who's just kind of starting in the video industry. I spoke with him like a week ago, and he was like asking me for advice and things like that, and I was asking him like how long he's been in it, and he said I pretty much like decided to go full freelance in September. And then I'm seeing like all the stuff that he's been doing, and I'm like, oh my god, like there's so much like possibilities now for a lot of people jumping in the industry in terms of what kind of content you can create with just like just getting a quality setup is so easy now. Like even when Dario and I jumped in, it was technically low barrier to entry, but it was like, but still the cameras were not as capable back then as well, which was like around 2013. That's when we started. And
But also the standard wasn't that crazy high either. Kira.
that's true too, right? So I guess it always like is relative to like what the standard is at the time. But I was telling the guy, it's like, listen, you have so many resources in your hand, like go and learn. Because he was asking me like, how did you learn and everything? Like there weren't as many like video resources out there to teach people things in 2013, 2014, 2015. You had to learn a lot by doing, and then studying like the big people, and then seeing how you could apply it to like to your world, right? Which was so small. Whereas like now there's 50,000 YouTube channels that tell you how you can create like a promo video with one camera and one light,
Right,
like
even with our phones nowadays. Yeah, even with our phones nowadays, you can just get a good microphone that clips in, and you can do some pretty impressive stuff. But that's funny you mentioned YouTube. I had a client that was like a health and nutrition kind of client, and at the end of the video, the guy goes, veins, and flexes veins, and they wanted him to turn green and veins to pop out
Like
when
the
he
Hulk.
did that. Like the Hulk, exactly. So you know what? I went to YouTube, and there was a tutorial about how to make veins pop out. So I just
Right.
followed it step by step. It was crazy. Yeah. I'm so glad that there's smart people out there that have figured all that stuff and are willing to share.
Thank God for that. Oh my God, that saved me like on creating the website and so many different things.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
It definitely helps like in getting like the basic stuff started for you, and then you can kind of evolve it from there. But like there's so many like if like a client needs like some kind of like effect, like you mentioned, it's crazy to think that there's like a library of people out there that are ready to kind of like just show you a step by step of how to do it. It's wild.
Yeah, it's very helpful. We appreciate it. So YouTubers, keep doing that.
What about your team? How big is your team?
My team, we have like 5 core people. We're kind of structured like a film production company. Everybody is contractors. So so we have a core of about 5 people that we use regularly. Sometimes
So it's
we're
just-
just
But it's
Go
just
ahead.
you, right? Like
Yes.
full time.
Yeah, the company is just me. But my camera people probably wouldn't say that as much as I have them out in the field working, especially their wives. They would say, tell Margaux no for a minute. So, but yeah, so it's kind of cool. It was going back to when you started the company was great because if I didn't have work, I didn't have to pay anybody, right? So that helped, But now it would be way more economical if they were employees and I wasn't paying them as contractors because, I pay them.
Like you use them so often to
I
this
use them
point.
so
like
often. Yeah.
why haven't
you-
you made that leap then if you feel like it's going to be more economically viable?
Well, for a few reasons. Paperwork, taxes, and the employee kind of thing, that really is my least favorite part of the job.
Yeah.
And I think they've been with me all this time, and I think it's okay to reward them that I'm making money, they're making money. I think that that's okay. So,
Yeah, with our industry, oftentimes it's just better just to keep them as freelancers, and then that way you don't add that added overhead risk to yourself, because like you mentioned earlier on in this conversation, we really are just project to project, so you don't know. Like you might, like, luckily for you, you got your 2025 set up, but next year you don't know how it might be, right?
Right. Yeah, you don't know. I think that they like it too. They, they can do different things on on their own too.
Yeah.
If there's a project they want to do or something, then, which I'm all for, because I figure, in this industry, experience is really the best teacher, and the more experience you get, the better you get, and then the better you get, you better are for me, right? So.
Yeah, and because when they go and work for other people, they're also learning from them, right?
Exactly.
And networking too, that's a big thing, because then if ever you're in a tight spot where one of your main people is not available, then they could be like, oh, I worked with so and so who was great, it's like another me, you have to hire them. It's like, okay, perfect, and now you don't have to worry as a result too.
And then you might learn something from the person they recommended, right? That's what I've noticed
100%.
with us.
100%.
Yeah, that's how we network in the industry, is just recommending each other to different people that we've worked with, because like how else are you going to like really grow? Like it's hard to work with people unless you have a recommendation from someone, or you've worked directly with them, right? Because it's like anytime you're hiring for a project, you want to hire people that will be able to deliver. It's really hard to bring on people that you haven't been able to test out before, right? Like anytime when we're trying to find editors, for example, it's like, okay, like how can we potentially integrate them into our workflow? It's such a whole process for onboarding. It's a different kind of onboarding when you think about it, right? It's like more onboarding and less full-time, right?
Right, totally. Like, so when you're out on the set and you bring somebody with you, it's great because you're kind of there and you can see them, and how they blend in with you. We have really good mojo on set, and our clients really enjoy working with us. So super important to me that you have to have like a positive attitude and be helpful. So that's a great thing, because then when we bring somebody out, and if they're a good fit, we hire them again. If they're not, we just don't ever hire them again. So, but editing is different, as you've mentioned, because it's like you're not sitting there with them overseeing them. So we went through a growth spurt over the past couple of years, that we were doing so much filming that we couldn't do all the editing. So we really had to bring on some more editors, and it was kind of experimenting, here's this kind of project. And then it was learning a new skill for me, is how do I tell them what I think the story should be, and how much should I tell them, and how much should I let them have free reign, and then kind of finding that way to work back. And then when it comes to editing, you put a story together and you're like, it's not quite right, and so you put this here and that here and that here, that's still not right, but then you put that here, that here, there, and there, and then you're like, oh, that's it. So when I have found that I was trying to give feedback to editors, it's like, well, how do you tell them, try this, but then they're like, well, I'm like, oh no, that still doesn't work, and they're like, well, that's what you told me to do. It's like, I was wrong, so like, we have to try something else and stuff. So I've been learning a new skill set too, trying to communicate the things that I think, because bottom line, whether the client likes it and is thrilled or not, comes back to you, right? So, so
how did you develop your process for communicating better with your freelancers then?
Well, that's a great question, Dari. I'm still figuring that out. So, we have one woman on our team that just is brilliant. She just gets it, and I love her. And she's expensive though. But it's just, I don't know. And then I have another couple of people, like one guy will do a story edit first and say, without any of the B-roll and stuff, did I get what you wanted? So then we kind of take it slower. But Amber, I just throw stuff at her, and she, she's fine with it. So another guy that I've worked with, we've really figured out it. The feedback has been, he'll put something together, and I'm like, I like this, I like this, I like this. I think we need more of this and more of this. So I don't really say cut here and move this part here like I thought I would have to do. It's more like I give the ideas and the feedback that way, and then he understands from there what I'm trying to say and go. So that's been really nice.
So in
you
a
wanna
way, you're
be
just
able-
providing a little more like guidance, but you're not like
Yeah.
micromanaging or directing too much, right? You're just letting the
Right.
creative be creative, but just kind of steering them in kind of the right direction, right?
Yes, and I liked how you said that. I might write that down and say,
Okay.
this is the kind of boss I am.
Yeah, you want to essentially be able to work with editors that you can give them like almost like bullet points of like or like a skeleton, and then let them creatively kind of go with it a little bit. That's what I found always yielded the best results, and with people who obviously are able to do it. That's the key thing. You have to find editors who are able to kind of think for themselves a little bit on how to make something work better, because because a lot of the time they will bring something to you in your story that you don't even notice at first, right? Because you've been so close to it for so long. Maybe they see a different perspective. So you want it to be a little bit collaborative in the beginning as well, especially like, as you said, like in the story cut stage, right? It all depends obviously on what kind of content you're creating at the end of the day too. But there are some editors like that editors need to be able to do that. And as you said, it may cost more money sometimes, but at the end of the day, it will save a lot more time and effort that could be spent on working on other projects at the end of the day, right? You want to be able to work with an editor
100%.
that delivers 2 killer drafts that is delivered and the client is happy with, and send you like several different drafts that you're like, oh no, it's not quite right. You got to go back and do this. And then it becomes too much back and forth on something that it will frustrate you after a little while. Because we've had that happen many times. And then in those certain situations, they're like, I think to myself, oh man, just give me the thing. I'm just going to do it
Just
right
do it.
now.
I'll just fix it.
Right? And because you're having trouble with that communication. But it's also a learning experience, right? Like, with every freelancer you work with, you develop new skills on how to better communicate your vision, because that's a skill in and of itself in what we do, right?
Right.
Yeah, and finding the right one. I mean, at the same time, like freelancers also trying to find the right like business owners to work with long term, because even for them, once they develop a good relationship, it means continued work. Because I know for us, once we have a freelancer we like, we don't explore. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
Like, 'cause
right.
For us,
Well,
it's like,
why would you? Why would
yeah,
you?
like
Right?
we
Yeah.
trust this person, and that's it.
That's
Like,
what
I
you
don't
hope
need
you
to-
get from your clients, right? Your clients find somebody they trust and they stick with you. That's what you know. That's kind of like the same philosophy you apply to your freelancers.
Yeah,
stick
it
with
took a
Exactly,
while
yeah.
to find. It took a while to find our main editor that we go to, and back in 2021, we found our main editor, Nick, who's just been phenomenal for us over the last few years. And like, it's always like a collaborative process every time we're working with him. It's like, it's going to be hard to find another Nick, you know, and
Another Nick,
it's not that easy. Yeah, there are a few like mini ones you find every now and then that you can like go off of if he's busy, but it's hard to find other people that you can kind of mesh with and just pleasant to work with, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is probably, I mean, editing itself, the technical part of it is a skill. Shooting is a skill, audio is a skill, lighting is a skill. But then the storytelling is a skill. I mean, we do probably 80% of what we do is documentary style interview videos. So taking the right parts and putting it together into a good story is a lot of what we do. And it's a real skill. And I'm not sure that you can teach how to tell a good story. I think that there's kind of got to be something in you, whether you get it, so if it's a good story or not. And then of course maybe you can hone it and whatever. But it's been interesting to see that storytelling matters.
That's true, because like if you think about like a cinematographer, a lot of that is just very technical stuff, right?
Right.
And especially if you have like the direction from your producer or your director, like you just need to be technically good at being able to light, compose the shot. Versus like editing, you do have to have that spark inside you to be able to craft the story. That's the interesting thing about editors, is that in a way they have to be an extension of you and your vision.
Yes, for sure. And the thing is, I think that the reason people hire us I think it's two reasons. I think they like us, they like working with us, it's a good experience, and ultimately we give them a product they really like. So they go to the website and they see our videos and they're like, oh yeah, I like this stuff. These are good stories. I want to hire these people. So then you have to have people kind of aligned with your style, right? Because there's different kinds of styles and putting things together. Like I'm sure there's people in Omaha that can get a better, more sleek, polished shot of a car zooming by, you know, or something. but I really don't think there's anybody that can tell a better story than we can. So
you mentioned how you had that growth spurt at some point. I'm just wondering, like, because like when you did have that influx of work coming in, how did you handle that without things getting off the rail? Because oftentimes we've heard from some other people where they'll get a lot of work and they'll try to expand to match it, but then like it might stop and they might have to let people go, or it just might be too much and their whole process breaks down and they have to restart from the ground up.
It was pretty stressful. And at some point I was concerned because I've always felt like we had really good customer relationships. You know, we build relationships. I feel like our most of our clients are friends, right? And then we do this really great quality work. So I'm like, crap, what am I going to do? You know, I'm spread so thin. There's only so much I can do. You know, I know I need to let go of stuff. I'm okay with letting go of stuff, but how do we make sure we keep good quality and whatever? And I was thrilled. I don't know exactly how I did it, Dario, but at the end of last year, clients were happy. I really feel like we were busier than we've ever been, and I feel like we were making some of the best stuff we've ever made. So just, I guess, communication and care is how we did it. So
did you have to like maybe expand your like freelancer base, and did you like run into any issues doing that?
We did expand. We expanded our freelancer base when it came to editing particularly. So we've had the same kind of shooters, the crew that we can use. A couple of our people do photography and shoot. A couple of our people will do drone and shoot. So we were able to kind of get coverage that way. But like you mentioned earlier, having people that you recommend and stuff, because sometimes, you know, we have a crew of 5, occasionally we need a bigger crew, so it's like, we got to go outside our regulars, kind of thing. But I forget what your question was, Dario.
I don't think, just in terms of like because you had the influx of work coming in, like how did you like match that on like the production or post side, right? Like how did you like avoid running into issues by like expanding your roster of creatives?
I guess I was just very careful with who I chose. You know, it's funny because like when you hire somebody that's going to be a camera person, right? They send you their reel and you're like, oh, this is some really good stuff. But like with an editor, when they send you a reel, I feel like, well, anybody can put together the best stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So with editors, you really kind of have to see stuff they've done and the stories that they've told and put together. So it's a little bit different. So when somebody sends me a resume, an editor sends me a resume and a reel, I'm like, yeah, this doesn't do anything good for me. Show me stuff that you have edited, the stories that I can see the sound bites that you pick, that I can see how you put in the nat sound, how I see how you mix the music. That's way more telling to me. And then I just try people out and, you know, see who understands my brain and how my brain functions and my feedback. And it was just kind of a slow process. And there was a time that we were still editing like crazy too to meet our deadlines. But with the people we were able to find and add to the team, we just kind of came out the other side okay.
Yeah. It's so true what you said about finding with editors. You have to look at what kind of work they've done. I always ask them for their top 3 bits of work that they've done that they're really proud of and happy with at least one of them being focused on the type of job that we're trying to hire for. That way we can get a sense of what their experience is like in that realm, and also like how they go about telling stories in other ones, right? Editing editor reels is funny because they're just editing other people's footage at the end of the day. It's not really telling a story. Like maybe the only thing a reel will tell me, it's like, okay, you know how to export on Premiere, great, you know, because it's technically other people's like footage that they're cutting together, unless they do something super creative with that reel that's like wild. But you have to see people's completed works, and I think that's something more and more people are asking to look at nowadays, because like putting together everyone's best works is only like a small bit to kind of like get your foot in the door, but to really get the job, you need to show actual finished product before you can do anything.
Yeah, I was just thinking yesterday that we need to put together a drone reel, like, you know, put together our best drone
We need
shots.
to do the same, to be honest with you.
Yeah. See, so something like that will work, right? Because it's like showing indoor, outdoor kind of nature, but it doesn't really work for me for editors. I'm with you.
Yeah, well, drone reels are different because it's like when people are asking for drone work, or like for someone to bring a drone to set, there's specific kinds of shots that you're looking for, and drone pilots, you have to showcase what their capabilities are in flying. Is like, can you fly the drone and maintain a good shot
legally,
or something creative? Yeah, legally too, right?
Legally.
In a way that you can actually hire this person for the shoot, right? Like if you hire a drone operator and all his shots are, or all their shots are completely jittery or like overblown, like in terms of like exposure and everything like that.
Don't last quite long enough. You're like, no, wait, I need one more second.
Yeah. That's
5 seconds instead of 2. You're like, damn it.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know, the new Premiere AI tool that allows you to extend shots might actually help you in that case.
I haven't tried it yet. Have you tried it?
No, not yet. I don't know if it's
haven't
out.
either.
I don't know if it's out yet technically, but when it is, I definitely will be testing it out, because you always need like another second sometimes, you know.
That with like AI voice is gonna be disastrous. I can just imagine you extending the clip of a person and just adding their AI voice to it.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, it's like taking a real interview and then just adding another portion to it.
But it might be good for like interview footage, corporate interview footage, because let's say you just need to add, they fumbled a word.
Oh
yeah, just fix it. That could be really good for that. Margaux, let's go back to sales a little bit, because it sounds like at the beginning you were doing quite a lot of that. Do you still find yourself actively doing a lot of sales for your company?
Yeah, I handle all the sales. So it's funny because I told you at the beginning, I knew nobody was going to come knock on my door and say, do video for me. But now it's funny because I can sit around and answer the phone and people want us to do video for them. So it's been pretty cool. We have tons of repeat clients, thank God. And they refer us. Other people, personal people, you know, here somebody wants video, they refer us. And then we do a little bit of Google Ads. So we don't really have a sales and marketing approach. I wish that I was better at that. You know, I've heard of people doing like email marketing and sales funnels. Some of the people I've listened to you on this podcast have talked about those kinds of things. That's just not really me though. So yeah, so for sales with me is really just networking, talking to people.
What kind of tips would you have for people in terms of like networking with either past clients or potential future clients? So I just started this past year. Well, there's like a nonprofit association here in Omaha that's really big and powerful. And since I have really good experience with them and credibility with them, I just could kind of continue to market to them. And they have events, and I just go to the events and meet people and talk to them. And somebody might not need video right then, but if they're a nonprofit, at some point they're going to need video. So then the whole idea is they heard of us when it comes time to decide who to pick, you know, they're looking at a couple of different companies. So yeah, let's take a look at Digital Moxie Studio. So those kind of event type things I think are good for me, because I like people and I like talking. You probably noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jealous, to be honest with you.
And so I've gone to like the chamber type things, the business meeting type things. Sometimes I think that they're fruitful and sometimes they're not, but you don't know until you try. So I think you have to just put yourself out there and talk to people.
I
you know,
suck
maybe
at
to
that.
get.
Do you just say like, because again, I'm not good at big events. I always send Kirill out instead of me, but I'm planning
Yeah,
on doing
usually
some more this
Dario
year.
Dario avoids the events, so I'm always trying.
I'm the
to...
kiss of death when it comes to events, so I try to avoid them. But this year I made a commitment to go to a couple more. So for someone like me, what would you suggest? Like you know, doing like a cold approach, just like even at these networking events, do you just kind of talk a bit about your business? Because you know sometimes like they're not interested in video right now, right? So how do you
Right.
go about that?
I think, Daria, you are a super charming, wonderful, talented guy.
You heard
So
that, Carol?
I don't. Yeah, you hear that, Carol?
Yeah, I got.
Yeah. So I don't think I would. I think that you probably just need to change your attitude. That instead of like, oh, I got to go out and I got to go do sales, is just, you know, like that analysis I used with my dad at the beginning. I mean, you love video, right? You love production. So just like, what else are you passionate about? I mean, I like kayaking, I like pickleball. So if I have a chance to talk to people about kayaking or pickleball, you know, it makes me excited. So just talk about video like the way you love it, and then don't worry about trying to sell. Just be you. Yeah. So I would say change your attitude and take the pressure off of you. That I got to sell something. This is sales. I got to sell something. And just kind of relax and have fun with it.
Okay. So I guess not being in your own head would be like a good takeaway from that.
100%. 100%. Try and just enjoy the experience of where you are. Meet somebody new. Try and find somebody that you think that, meet somebody that day that you're just going to enjoy the conversation just for the sake of the conversation.
Okay. So I gotta like people. I think that's the trick.
Oh, that's also tricky. Yeah, like
I don't think you're that good of an actor. I think you like people.
Yeah, the thing is also like we have to also remember that it's not meant to, like you said, you can't go into an event thinking I'm gonna get a sale today or I'm going to get a contact that's gonna get me a sale. It's like you just have to plant seeds and build relationships. Like there was one, like over the course of the pandemic, there was like one like marketing organization in Toronto that we became a part of, and I was very active in like going to a lot of the events and just kind of like meeting and connecting with people. And like it got to the point where every event, like a lot of the people knew me, I knew them, and even though it took a while for any work to kind of come through, eventually we did get like a couple like actually pretty big projects from it that were pretty interesting too. And it was just because people had just known me in that small community as the video expert, and so they wanted to send work towards me once they finally had that opportunity. But I'll be fair, that was a very slow burn. It took like 2-3 years before any actual paid work started coming our way from it.
Wow.
But again, that was just a very small community. And then it's like the key is to get into a lot of these other smaller communities of marketers or business owners. And that's one thing that Dario and I have talked about and why he's asking so many questions. Because there have been many times I've tried to get him to come to these events, and he was like, oh, I don't know. It's
I
also
would agree
so far
to it,
for
and
me.
then I would agree to it, and then last minute I would always flop.
Yeah,
Have a stomach ache. All of a sudden, have a stomach ache. Can't go.
Yeah, I always knew his game, but I now know that he's like actually serious about it. That he's asking about it in podcasts. So, so now he has no excuse.
Well, I
I put it out
admire
there.
that's a long time. 2-3 years for some reward there, and that was good. But then it was a big reward, right? So then.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was also the pandemic, right? So it took 2 of those years were because of the pandemic itself. So it was not very easy to kind of like push forward because so many budgets were so restricted at the time. And as a result, it's like, okay, it's just all I can do right now is try to build relationships as much as I can. And actually, we did do some work with them that indirectly got us a lot of other work with other clients. You know, like we did some kind of like work on the arm for them because it was like a nonprofit organization. And then I showed that work to other potential leads that actually got us projects that have led to others. So it's like the seeds can help in different ways to make maybe not direct work, but sometimes indirectly helping you in other ways, right?
It's like this podcast, because we had the same thing happen with Creators Grab Coffee, where we connected with people, and then like maybe two years after that, we got work from them, because again, everyone is in different cities for this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. So they had work in Toronto, and it worked out. So even though we were doing this podcast for free, just for the knowledge and the networking, we ended up getting some money that helped pay for the expenses of the show in a way.
Yeah. So I
And
guess
we've also hired a few guests actually in the U.S. because like we've had a client that wanted us to film in Seattle and North Carolina. So we interviewed people in those cities, hired
That's
them,
awesome.
and then I flew out and was like there on set working with them for our clients. So you
That's
never know
awesome.
where it can go.
you never
And
know.
we even had it happen with the UK. We had a shoot in the UK, and for that one, we actually just let that production company take care of the whole production side of it, and then we obviously did the pre and the post for that project. So
Pretty exciting
Been good.
how it all works. Pretty
Yeah.
exciting how it all works. Yeah, I think that if I tried to say that I was a salesperson, I would freak myself out. I would, get this whole negative thing. I'll say, because, like in my mind, some part of
The
me
label.
thinks that salespeople look at people as numbers. How can I get this? I got to close the deal. Blah 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 blah. So I guess I don't look at it that way. That probably is what helps me. So
yeah, I think there's like I feel like there is a difference between like what we do with regards to sales and an actual salesperson, because I'm just thinking back to like we got a car in October, and I knew the guy at the dealership. He's an old friend of ours, but I could still see that he was treating me like a number. Even in my
Yeah.
head, I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
yeah.
So it's a whole different. It is different when they're
It
doing
is
It's a
sales.
mentality. It's a
Yeah.
different mentality because
Yeah.
then it's like you're literally, like you said, thinking of numbers and quotas rather than thinking of the person in front of you, and it's always a hard sell. It's like I get it. The environments are pressuring people to kind of do that, but we're not in that kind of industry. We got to remember, like we're just there to meet people. I think that's like I think a good starting point. Just go from that perspective. Like I just want to go meet new people. And then who knows where it goes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The other thing you have to admit too is that sometimes you get a project that has a really great budget and it's just not that exciting, and then you get a project that doesn't have a great budget but it's super fun. So there's other rewards to it than just the money, right?
Yeah.
Some of our best, most interesting projects were the ones that had like very low budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like a weird catch-22 where it's like you need to do like the low budget stuff with great portfolio stuff to get the high budget stuff that is low portfolio stuff. And that's one of the things that we've noticed over the last few years where we focused a lot on getting healthy budget projects because that's what we need to do as a business. But then when
Right.
after a while you start looking at, say, if you do a lot of financial clients or a lot of corporate work, it's not that all the work is the same, but it's hard to kind of like do a whole portfolio or like a new reel that's just based off of corporate interviews,
Right. Or you're going on to a set and you're excited, like what's going to happen today. That's kind of versus.
I still get that
interviewing.
excitement from like corporate videos,
Yeah.
because like there's always like some random thing that'll pop up and you got to problem solve. But in terms of like something that's visually interesting in a portfolio or in a
Yeah.
reel,
Right.
it's hard to get that from corporate work. But like even just the regular talking head videos, like I find them fun to do. I might be in the minority when I say that, but I like just being able to interact with the client that day and then like show off what we can do visually, because they always get impressed with the equipment and the lighting and visually how it looks, and then just talking with the talent and directing them. But again,
Dario,
it's not visually
that mentality.
interesting.
That mentality is what you
Right
need to
there.
have going into the networking right there, what you just said.
Exactly.
Like, I'm like, boom,
Exactly.
there's your
That's
mojo,
it.
okay?
That's it. He's 100% right.
Yeah, because
Nice.
it's
Okay.
true. Like a lot of like corporate projects for a lot of people in our industry treat corporate projects as like, low, right? Which is not the right attitude to
Well,
go.
not the ones that care
it.
about money.
That's the other thing, right? Yeah. Dario knows very well. It's like these are like very precious people that we need to take care of because they will be the ones putting the food on the table, right? But at the same time, I know what Dario is where he's coming from, because it's like we are also dealing with people who are not used to being on camera sometimes, and you can see how nervous they can sometimes get, and it feels good to be able to kind of like calm and relax people who typically get
100%.
anxious about things like that, because it can be anxious being on camera. Like Dario and I have done our own video content for the business, and like I remember the first few videos we did, we were like, oh no, like this isn't good. Or if you look at the very first episodes of Creatives Grab Coffee, we would just be like, so what do you do? And then we would let the guests talk for like 30 minutes.
Forgot about that. You know, we had an experience where we had to do this massive educational series for one of our clients, and they were short on people. So
On
short
talent,
on actor. Yeah, they were short on talent. And Kirill and I stepped in to do like a couple of the videos, right? Like I'm talking about, I forget how many videos we did. I think it was like 80 videos. It was
We
something
did
crazy.
88
Holy cow.
videos in 1 month. That's what we had
Wow.
to do.
We were
And
in that office for 3.5 weeks straight, to the point where
every single
I think
day.
it looked really fun when we signed the contract, and I looked at all the digits. I'm like, oh my god, this is great. This is a third of what we need for the year. Fantastic. But oh my god, after the third day, I was losing my mind. I think I was drinking like 10 teas a day just to keep myself like
Awake.
from falling
Nodding off when the
asleep.
client is talking.
Oh my
and you're,
god!
falling
Like
asleep.
I noticed how
Well-
like I need something different, like every 5 minutes, because otherwise I would die of boredom. But anyways, the point of that story is that we stepped in front of the camera, and
Yeah.
I got like a little anxiety attack with the first speech, and I was
I
like,
remember that. It was like, because Dario was saying, like, yeah, I'll get it all done in like 10 seconds.
because we were doing
and
our
then
own
all-
blog videos at the time, and I was doing fine, but it was just me and him, right? So I felt
Right.
we had the
Yeah.
client over there, and I started shaking, like my hands started shaking.
I'd never seen him
Keep
like
in mind,
this.
keep in mind, I did have like it was like 2.5
And now
weeks
you're
in.
gonna
so
blame, you're gonna blame the caffeine,
the,
huh?
the tea. 'cause
Yeah,
I was
it's the
putting in
caffeine,
three.
right?
It was the caffeine.
I needed like three. I got to the point where I needed 3 tea bags at once to be able to like get anything from it, right? Because I was drinking so much tea. So I think it was that. But thinking about it, it's like, man, that's probably what some people feel when we're shooting with them.
For sure.
Where they get that
sure.
little bit of anxiety. So we try
Yeah,
to like
it
make
is-
them feel comfortable. And
It is
everything before.
satisfying when you interview somebody and you get, really great content. So
Yeah.
sometimes I think that the editors would like for me to cut my interviews a little shorter so they have less to go through and stuff. But I'm a huge proponent of that. If you don't have it, you can't include it. So I really take my time, and I mean, and I tell the people afterwards too. I mean, the first third of the interview we hardly ever use, right? You use the stuff that's in the middle or towards the end is usually the really great stuff. So
Use the backups.
yeah.
That was great. Let's get the backup.
Yeah. One thing I learned also from that project that Dario was talking about is that a lot of the nerves can sometimes come from not great writing as well. And because if things don't sound good or flow well, especially if you're reading off of a teleprompter, it can really get to you. And like that particular project was very scrappy because it was just Dario and I on set, because it was during like around the pandemic lockdown era. So all we were allowed to have was like 4 people in one room, and that was it. So it was us, one talent, one client person, and that was it. So it was, the whole office area was empty. So it was kind of eerie at the same time. And so Dario had to do a whole English module, and I had to do an entire French module because I was able to speak French. But the problem was that the scripts, to kind of like go with the content, like and to streamline it, the client had to write it with their team daily for us. And what happened was, one of the people who was in charge of doing the French went to Google Translate and then put the English one there. And when I was given the French one, I'm trying to read it, and then I started screwing up, and I'm like, this is not normal. Like I shouldn't be screwing this up. And then I'm like, okay, there's something here doesn't make sense, And then finally I was able to kind of get through it in the end.
It was the act. We had a French actress come in, and
The
she
next
was
day,
reading
yeah.
it. The next day she was reading, and she's like, "Oh, like that's like like the way they wrote it. It's very like dirty. You can't say that." So then we figured
You
out
can't say
that
Yeah.
that she's like, the whole thing was like miswritten. So she actually helped us rewrite it. But yeah, it turned out they used Google Translate for that.
Oops.
So that
Just
that
crazy.
lends itself is to the writing. It's like, if you're writing something for people who've never been on camera before for a teleprompter, you have to make sure, like, read it yourself, because if it
Yeah.
doesn't flow just enough, like if you make a run-on sentence, it can completely disrupt the flow for talent. Like if you have to like put like 10 different points in one sentence, you get out of breath, you get tired, and then you make a mistake, and then it's like a snowball effect. If if talent starts to make too many mistakes in a short amount of time, it starts to get to them in their heads.
Yep.
Yeah, they freak out, and it's
There's
it's difficult to recover.
There's a related story to that recently, because we do this like quarterly webinar, and one of our clients, like the team, the executive team goes and does their whole things, reads for that, and one of them always had issues getting through it, and I could see it would frustrate him, right? And then this last one, it was like perfect read through, but because they customized like the teleprompter speech to like his like reading style, so oftentimes that's also the case too. You got to customize it to the client in a way.
I would recommend, I recommend it to clients, is that whoever's going to read this, if it's written, have them modify it to where it's how they talk. Keep the main points, keep the thing, but make it sound like you. So
yeah, the problem is it's compliance people who are writing these scripts sometimes.
Yes, yeah, I know. The legalese crap stuff. Yeah.
It sounds like a contract you're reading on teleprompter sometimes.
That's so true.
Thou shalt not give money to said subject, and yes.
Terrible.
Therefore known as client.
we had a job that I was super excited when it ended, but for an entirely different reason. We did the welcome to jail video. So
welcome to jail.
Welcome
you got
to jail.
What is that?
Yeah. So like when you when you go to jail, there's like an orientation, and there was like a half an hour video that you sit down and watch, and it's like, here, this is the stuff you'll get, these are the rules, this is the thing, and stuff like that. So we did that. We did one about house arrest and stuff. So we were at the jail for a week. Like literally,
Did they put them on the carousel afterwards, like the cows, and then just let them? Was that a spa treatment too?
No, that was why I was glad that it ended, because I was so happy to leave that set. I've never been so happy to be a free person, because jail, unlike the spas with the cows, is not a fun place.
Did you have to interview some inmates? Or?
We did not. We did not. We got
That looks
B-roll.
like fun, though. I would love to be able to add that to our list of places we've been to. Like, not like as an inmate, but like
not as an inmate.
But like as a company, that's
it's
pretty
very
cool,
easy to get in when you think about it.
Yeah, we can make that happen. But it was interesting, because we did have to get B-roll with the people, with the inmates, and they were so eager to be in the video and stuff. It was kind of fun. Yeah, they're because sometimes you go and you need like people to be in B-roll, and they're like, not there. They were like, I'll do it. So
they have the same routine every single day, like that video project Dario and I we were doing. So they were looking for something different to
mix up their day.
Fun.
Yeah.
Like Shawshank Redemption, where they got to go fix the roof.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when that job ended, I was very pleased that we got to leave the jail as free people.
It's great.
Just hope you didn't rub it in anyone's faces as you were leaving. It's like, I'm free.
We were very subtle, slid out, just to make sure we didn't screw anything up, and got out of there.
Did you say like, have a nice life? Sentence, that is.
Oh, brutal.
Dario.
Oh my God. That's a George Costanza bit.
Oh yeah, from Seinfeld.
One last thing I wanted to mention in terms of like making your talent feel comfortable is, aside from making sure, like sometimes if they keep fumbling, it might be the script. But another thing as well is sometimes their breathing isn't right.
Yeah.
So they might not be breathing properly. Like that's the issue I had when I started like freaking out, or with that little bit of anxiety, is I wasn't breathing enough. So I didn't have enough oxygen to keep reading. So my brain went into panic mode. So sometimes I notice if the lead is, or like the talent is like fumbling a little too much, I tell them, all right, take a moment, take a deep breath, take another one, all right, and then we can start. Because sometimes they don't give themselves enough time to inhale, and then their brain goes into panic mode because they don't have enough oxygen.
Yeah, that's interesting that you guys use the teleprompter so much, because we really try not to, because delivering somebody else's words and making them sound like your own is a skill. I mean, that's why Brad Pitt is famous and makes tons of money, right? So I try really hard. We as a company try really hard to not have non-professionals read.
We try not to, like, again, it depends on the project. We do have it as a backup because sometimes it's like, unfortunately, like everyone can learn. I don't know who said it, but the famous director said that everyone can learn to be a good actor. The thing is, some people just take way longer than others to do that, right? So sometimes we're on tight timelines. So we have it as a worst case. Hey, if they can't get it within this one, we'll pop out the teleprompter. We'll place it kind of like where the interviewer's head will be, and it kind of looks seamless. Because again, sometimes we just don't have enough time. Like I can't spend the whole shoot day trying to get you to read, like try to get you to answer 3 questions, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. I try really hard. Every once in a while, somebody just did it a couple months ago. We said bullet points. They sent me the bullet points. These bullet points look good. They seem to, get the flow of the point of the story. I show up, and not only does he have a script, but the other 2 people that he has to be in it have a script. And so now they're trying to memorize the script and try and deliver it to camera. I'm like, oh. It was terrible. And so then the bad thing is, the worst thing is that now he thinks he's not good on camera. And I'm like,
it gets in their head, and then
it's like you would be amazing on camera if you would have listened to me, but you wrote out a script and you're not a professional actor. You're not going to be able to do this, writing it down and rehearsing it for 5 minutes. That's just not how this works. So I was really disappointed because he could have been better, but sometimes people have to learn things the hard way, right? So
and it also depends on the like as Daria mentioned, it also depends on the kind of project you're doing. Like when possible, we always prefer to do the interview style where we're getting people to have very natural responses on camera, because that is the most engaging content that you will get usually, right? But it just so happens a lot of our funny stories are projects that were very specific scripts that had to be delivered talking directly to camera, right? Because it's one thing to do an interview when you're talking to someone, but the second you're talking to a camera, it's very difficult to keep it natural because you're not talking to a human. You're talking to a little spherical piece of glass
100%,
at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And like all these other tidbits that we're talking about is like what it's like with teleprompter type setups, right? But it's a completely different skill set to also do interviews, right? But as Dario mentioned, sometimes at the end of the day, if there's a specific thing, if they're not good on camera, better to try to like get like something still. Like you could feed them an answer, they can get it back to you if you need to, based off of their own wording, of course, right? But
it's funny because as you're talking, I can think of the worst person I ever interviewed and the best person I ever interviewed. Yeah. The best person was at the head of the Omaha Chamber of Commerce at the time. And we showed up and we asked him 5 questions and we had 5 perfect sound bites. It was like he didn't stumble on a word. He didn't miss a thing. He was on point. It was like boom, 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 boom. And then the worst person was a guy that was really gregarious in real life and charming and everything. But as soon as we turned the camera on, he literally was like camera shocked and he couldn't string like even 3 words. He couldn't finish a sentence. And like you were talking about, Dario, it took forever just to get anything kind of usable out of him.
Anytime I hear someone saying, "Oh, I'm great in front of crowds, I'll get this done in 2 seconds," I always go, "Oh Lord, this is gonna be the worst one of the day. We're gonna be here all day for a while." And it's always like that. Oh, as soon as they say I'm great in front of crowds, it's done. Like I already know. Like
that's the warning sign for you.
That's the warning sign for me. That's the red flag.
The reason behind that, the psychological reason behind that, is because they're going into the recording session with an inflated ego and like kind of like an expectation of themselves to nail it, right? And so what's normal when you're on camera is that sometimes you make little fumbles and mistakes. It's normal to do that, right? But they don't realize that. So they go on camera and then they make their first mistake. They're like, "Oh no, my ego's hurt. Like I should be doing this perfect."
I don't even think it's that. I think that when they're in front of a crowd, they feed off the energy off the crowd.
That's part of it, but I'm just saying like that's the thing that triggers it, where they start to kind of get in their head sometimes, is when they start making these mistakes. But because they're talking in front of people, the mistakes are something that they would do on stage are kind of like part of the whole spiel, right?
You just keep going if you stumble on a word. No, you don't even notice that you stumbled on a word necessarily because you just keep going. Yeah.
Because you're also getting feedback from the people there right away.
Exactly.
It's like, anyways, listen, we're just past the 1 hour mark. I'd just like to end off with how you came up with the name of the company, and then I guess we'll just do your social handles and we'll cut it off. So how did you come up with the Digital Moxie Studio?
I wish I had a better story for this. So I've always liked the word Moxie. You know, it's been used about me a couple of times in my life. And so I just started writing words down like studio, production, digital, film, video, Moxie, and put some different things, and then kind of had a bunch of words and just kind of put some together. And then I picked it, I narrowed it down to my 3 favorite, and sent it to friends and said, which one of these 3 do you like? And they all picked Digital Moxie Studio. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's great.
Nice.
that was it.
Okay, so let's move on to your social media. How can people find you? So your website is?
DigitalMoxie.studio.
Yes, Digital Moxie the Studio, and obviously based in Omaha, Nebraska. And do you have any socials?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they are at the top of my head.
I'll open them up right now.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on
At Digital
LinkedIn,
Moxie.
the works.
yeah, Facebook.
Yeah, so guys, make sure to follow her on at Digital Moxie for Instagram, and then Facebook is Digital Moxie Studio.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daria, for looking that up for me.
Margaux, thank you
Perfect.
so much for joining us on Creatives Grab Coffee. You were a delight to chat with.
It was a joy. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Labs Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by...
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group band packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.